Today's roundtable discussion delves deeper into the topic of the customer experience. We have Carl Doty and Dave Frankland from Atlaas joining us again, a newcomer from NewBalance, Sam Stern, the senior manager of the CX. Sam, thanks for joining us for the first time. You're just the guy we want to talk to. So how is your company, and forgive the pun, balanced the customer experience in today's market?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So at NewBalance, we've really started to look at customer experience as a way for us to build a longer-term relationship with our customers, first and foremost, and in a way that connects who our brand is with what our customers expect from a brand that's talking about those attributes. So when we talk about ourselves, we're all about quality and fit. NewBalance has made its own shoes in its own factories for many, many years. We've offered shoes in widths for many years. And so quality and fit are two words we always associate with our customer experience and our products. But our customers would tell us that those words mean many other things to them. And so our focus on customer experience is about connecting words that we've already embodied with our own meanings with the meanings that our customers have for those words and delivering that in our products and our services.
I'm fascinated by the topic because I'm dying to hear how you, as a practitioner, go about understanding what those implied meanings are. Because there's an awful lot of research out there, but it seems like you probably personally are reorienting the company's perspective to get one from the actual consumer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I joined the company about 16 months ago, I was sort of handed this customer value proposition of quality and fit. And they said, here you go. Here's what we are to our customers. And I said, great. How do you know this? And they said, well, we've always been this to our customers. I said, oh, so you don't know this. Okay. Let's look at it. And I'll be honest with you, quality and fit sounded pretty trite to me. And I was worried that those were not the right words. We did a pretty extensive multi-country, sort of modal research study. So, 6 or 7 different countries spanning most of where our customers are across the globe. And we both did a quantitative survey instrument and qualitative focus groups and shop-alongs and one-on-one interviews, really to get both perspectives and bring that in. And actually, those words, I was wrong to doubt those words. Those words meant plenty to our customers, and they were happy to be associated, to do business with a brand that embodied those words. But what they said is, here's how I think about quality. Quality, in a way we were not yet thinking about it at NewBalance, meant sustainability. It meant trust and confidence in the brand. We were talking about it in products that are well made, and they said, yeah, that's great, but I also want products that last a long time, which we kind of thought we were speaking about, but we weren't speaking about explicitly in the value of our products. And then on the fit side, they said, sure, it's about comfort. It's about performance, which are words we were already talking about, but I need you to fit into my life. And for me, that was really promising because that suggested and implied so many things about a different customer experience that we would create. And it also meant, I want you to fit my style. And we probed on that. Well, what do you mean? And they said, stop telling me if this shoe or this sweatshirt is for a man or a woman. I'll decide that. I have a strong sense of personal style. Let me choose. And they said, if you're talking about fit, I assume you mean fits everyone. And so it was about inclusivity. And as a brand, we hadn't yet offered extended sizes, plus sizes. And they said, that doesn't embody fit in my definition. And so that really pushed us, and there's a few others as well, but that really pushed us as a brand to sort of say, okay, actually quality and fit are great words, but they imply so much more than we had thought they did to customers. And if we're going to continue to be positively associated with those words, we have to go where customers are saying they want us to go around those two words.
Dave and Carl and I and Rafer have seen this document, we're just calling it a Brandscape, that compares brands within a category and ranks them according to how consumers view them along a couple of different axes. And it was really interesting for us to look at where NewBalance fell on the grid, because I guess for me, I've always thought of NewBalance as a brand that people who were NewBalance loyalists were really super loyal to the brand. And yet the grid seemed to show us, maybe it tells a little bit of a different story. I don't know what you think about that, Dave, or what you think about that, Carl, but
it's a good point, Mike. I had a little bit of a different interpretation on it because while another brand who scored maybe a little higher on emotional engagement, that didn't necessarily surprise me, giving so much front and center advertising that company does around emotion, around social values, et cetera. But what really stuck out to me about New Balance was how far up the scale they were on meeting customer expectations. And I think that speaks to those loyalists that you referred to, that I think we all know in the consumer space.
Yeah, and I think there's truth to that. We have customers who will come back and buy the same pair of shoes every year. And for certain of our models, we've updated them, but we haven't changed them meaningfully over 30, 40 years. And customers really value that because they love those shoes. And I'm thinking of something like our Made in the USA, the 990. It's on V5. It's been around for 40 years. And there's people who have bought 40 pairs. And they are really happy that every year they can go buy the next pair and it's going to fit the right way. It's going to be available in sizes that fit their feet. It's meeting those expectations. So I do see that. I think where we're challenging ourselves and where we are not living up to what we could be as a brand is they'll buy those from us or they won't. They'll buy them from wherever they can get them. And they're not necessarily feeling a connection to our brand beyond the fact that they think that shoe is just right for them. And we want them to more emotionally engage with our brand, those customers, but also for younger customers and customers that we aren't getting any or much of their business, they expect that from the brands in their life, to just have a much stronger emotional connection and to be able to look at how the brand operates, it treats its employees, treats its partners, shows up in its communities and in the world. They want to know all that information. And we'd been quiet about that as a brand because we were trying to be humble and we knew we always had work to do in all those areas. And as much as I think that's a good instinct to be humble about that and to do the work, at the same time, people want to know, where are you? And so being transparent about what we're working on and where we think we need to make progress and where we think we're proud, we have a lot to say, that's what customers expect today. And we have to do more of that to form that emotional connection.
So Dave, how do they do that?
Well, before I just do the how, I think one of the things that's interesting to me about New Balance as a brand, and even Sam, if I can key back on some of the things you were talking about, to Mike's question, there's I think there's this, my perception is there's this very loyal customer base. You talked about people buying 40 pairs of shoes over as many years. And yet there's a huge percentage of the population that don't buy New Balance, right? And
Yep.
have variety of perception. So did you, when you were doing your quality and fit analyses, did you include in that non-New Balance customers? And how did those terms resonate? Were they as important? I'm curious about the sort of, are these existing customer attributes, and that makes perfect sense to me. And yet there's a whole bunch of other things that I might want as a shoe or other, sports apparel buyer. And I don't think of New Balance because it fits the quality, it meets the quality and fit need, but not whatever other needs I might have. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the research that we did, I think our target customer, as defined by that research, we call the global independent. And there's not a lot of overlap between our target customer, and this is aspirational to help us grow and last another 100+ years as a brand, and who our current customer is today. If you want to put a New Balance point on it, we're selling dad shoes to dads today, and we want to sell dad shoes, which in many instances are, actually very trendy right now, to their kids. The 990, we have this tagline, it's, worn by supermodels in London and dads in Ohio. And we want all of those customers. And, and I think we can get all of those customers if we are meeting some of the other definitions of quality and fit that younger, newer to the brand customer expects. And I'll expects, like, underline that word. Sustainability is now an expectation. You have to show up doing that. It's not like, hey, you get extra credit for this. It has to be built in to your story, to your products. And I would say inclusivity is fast approaching sustainability. It's like, I expect you as a brand to do this, right? If you're not doing plus sizing in apparel, and we're not today, well, then how can you talk about fit? Because you don't fit a large segment of the population. So for us, it's about moving our image as a brand, moving the attributes that we're known for into alignment with that new target customer that sort of that we believe will sustain us, for decades to come, in the way that loyal customer has sustained us in the past.
So who leads that charge internally, right? So even the idea of hiring a CX person, that's a huge decision. And then you're talking about reorienting the business around some of these aspects, right? So who's involved in that? I'm sure it's not just, hey, we hired Sam, great, off we go, we're done. And I recognize it's a process, right? And obviously this is a lot of what Carl and I help companies do. Like, talk us through a little bit of how that works internally and who you have to engage with and how you start to move that tanker.
I was hired into what we call our global marketing team. I was hired by someone within that organization who oversees a lot of our direct-to-consumer marketing, a lot of our brand efforts, and he was a big believer in the importance of customer experience and sort of advocated for bringing that kind of a function and a lens into New Balance. His executive sponsor for that hire is our SVP of direct to consumer, which was also a relatively newly created position to help us, and again, I think those two go hand in hand. We want to sell more of our product directly to our customers through our retail stores and on our website. And to do that, you could buy our products from some of the best customer experience companies on the planet, right? Amazon, Zappos, Nordstrom, and many other companies of that caliber and customer experience sell our products. Why would you buy them from New Balance unless we have a really good customer experience? Is to me sort of the simple math, simple equation of this. And then what I hadn't anticipated when I got there, I was thinking in sort of traditional customer experience terms, listening to customers, measuring the experience, building out a customer vision, which is our customer value proposition. But the value proposition exposed that I needed to go into every part of the organization. And some doors are wide open and I walk right in, and others I'm knocking, and others I'm banging because no one is answering it for me. So there's varying degrees of receptivity in working with me, which is, I think, true at any organization.
This is so refreshing to hear, because I think so many brands still think of CX as we need better website usability, or we need better messaging in our marketing and advertising. But what you're talking about transcends the entire organization. You're talking about going back to product development. You're talking about going back to supply chain. I think, I don't know if that was like an aha moment for New Balance after you arrived and after the research, but I think a lot of brands are still missing that, regardless of what category they happen to play in.
Yeah, and I think we have an advantage as a brand, as a company, in that we have that supply chain that's vertically integrated, not literally all the way back to the cows necessarily for the leather, but we're sourcing a lot of those materials directly and then putting them into our own factories and making them and selling them in our own stores and our own sites. So we're doing a lot of the end-to-end process. So I think we have a natural inclination to think holistically and end-to-end with things like that. It was a new perspective to be honest, to bring it all the way to the end customer. D2C is still something we're really working at, right? We had sold to, you sell it into Foot Locker and then they sell it to the customer. And now it's us selling it directly, as well as still partnering with companies like Foot Locker. It was eye-opening for me, Carl and Dave, to be frank, because I had been so steeped in traditional customer experience topics and areas of focus that the opportunity to go work on so many products and service experiences inside of a company, I wouldn't have imagined I could knock on this many doors when I got in the company, but it was natural for them to think that I should.
And Sam, there's been receptivity because, Mike and I talk a lot about how a lot of customer experience change is usually coming from within the C-suite rather than listening to the customer. Have you found that your experience at New Balance, they've been receptive to some of the ideas, or is that a far too general question for me to ask?
I would say they're very receptive to the ideas. There's still obviously a natural tension when we get down to, and now I need you all to work in a different way. They're like, okay, you could say that. You're the one who's new to the organization, not me. And honestly, I've studied the culture of organizations and how to make it more customer centric for years, and the way that a culture of an organization resists change in times of need to be strong is a strength, right? The slow moving of culture, it holds on to things that are important to an organization when everything else is shifting around it. But when you need it to go fast, it's hard for it to go fast. And so I am running into some of that, but to me, that's natural. And to me, that's part of the friction of customer experience transformation is when you're asking people to do their jobs differently and what you're asking them to do is not core to their jobs. That's a big lift from a behavior change perspective at the human level.
one of our other colleagues who couldn't be on this call in this conversation, Tim Myers, makes a strong point about what you're talking about, but has to do with how do we incentivize the people responsible for operating differently? Because so many of these people are either paid based on old metrics, or whatever incentive matrices are set up for them are based on old thought patterns. And he makes it, I think, in fact, spend 10 minutes on the phone with him and he'll tell you there's nothing like a big fat carrot at the end of a healthy stick to change people's behavior. But have you found that incentive structures needed to be changed, or is this simply a function of nudging culture?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen incentives that need to change. So that hasn't been, to me, the issue. It's more been that we're building up, frankly, new muscle memory, new practices. I mentioned before that it's not a long accepted thing of selling all the way through to the end customer. And so that's, orienting all the way out to that point of what not does the buyer at Foot Locker want, but what is, just an individual customer on the street want. That's a big change. And I think, if you're looking at it from, well, if I deliver to the buyer at Foot Locker what they need, that's, tens of thousands of pairs of shoes. Or if I nail it for that one end customer, that's one pair of shoes. That feels more daunting, right? To have to sort of start to tailor it to all those individuals. Now, we've been trying to make the case about how much there's consistent similarities across many of those end customers, and I think that helps. So to me, it's about building up the muscle memory. It's about making them confident that it might take longer to stop and wait for the customer insights and to do that kind of careful study and analysis and reflect on what it means about how we'll have to work differently. But taking that time to do it that way means that we're much more likely to get it right when we deliver new products, when we deliver new services. And that is refreshing in an organization we've been around as long as we have. We've had plenty of products where it's like, oh, I wish we could get that one back. So the idea of getting more of them right, or getting more of them really right, is certainly appealing to people internally.
Well, Sam, it's been a very enlightening conversation. We're grateful to have you, and Carl and Dave, also grateful to have you guys come back anytime.